Hey everyone, welcome back. Brand new Take Aim podcast. I think this is episode 250, so excited to get this out. And with me this week is my good buddy Shawn Kelley, who is the Whitetail Properties land specialist here in Southeast Michigan. So if you're looking to buy or sell, please get a hold of Shawn. I'll drop his Instagram handle in the show notes. But me and Shawn recently were just at our place in Southern Ohio, our lease, brand new lease, new to us anyways, 1,600 acres, so it's extremely big. And it's a lot to take in. It's a lot to learn. So we just kind of cover in this show how we scouted it, what we think is going to happen, some of the tools we use to kind of get some of the MRI that we're going to use towards hunting season, and just overall the feel of what happened down there. It's completely different than any type of farm or ag land I've ever hunted here in the Midwest. So you'll hear all the good stuff in the podcast. It's a good show. It's packed with a lot of information. Hope you guys enjoy. And as always, the show is brought to you by HuntStand. If you're looking to upgrade to the HuntStand Pro app today, make sure to use the code TAKEAIM10. But HuntStand actually played a huge part in some of the scouting down there, which we talked about in this show. But again, hope you guys enjoy. Super excited about this new property and just the kind of going into the year doing something different, not knowing what's expected, unlike some of the previous years where you know some of the deer that are 3, 4, 5 years old. So completely new feel, but listen in. It's a great show. See you guys again next week. All right, guys, we are live. Brand new Take Aim. Excited to be back, get a new show out, and this week I have Shawn Kelley with me, Whitetail Properties land specialist for here in Southeast Michigan. But Shawn is my good buddy and my partner on a lease we have in Southern Ohio. But Shawn, what's happening?
Hey, how's it going, Brandon?
Good, man. But excited you could be here today, and kind of excited. I thought it'd be a really cool show of me and you kind of just broke down what we did last week, going to Ohio together. We kind of got into this lease. I guess you would call it maybe a little bit late in the ball game, but just how we felt when we went through everything and kind of how we turned the page and what we're going to do here in the future.
Yeah, it was kind of a run and a gun situation with a short amount of planning and just kind of winging it.
Yeah, it was. I'm excited though. I think overall we're going to have a good year down there, but just to give everybody like that 10,000 foot overview, me and Shawn went down and walked. We didn't walk at all, but there's 1,600 acres on this piece that we've leased with some other guys. So, but me and Shawn went down and kind of just, let's call it broke ground, so to speak. And we had been studying some stuff I'd been studying on my HuntStand and had it mapped out. Shawn uses Onyx maps, but we were trying to coordinate between the two where saddles were, ridges, and all that stuff. And, Shawn had picked out a couple good spots. I had a couple good spots in mind, and we just went down there and started walking. But, man, it's I don't know about you, Shawn. Shawn's had a little bit of hunting in Ohio, and I haven't. But, man, for me, Shawn, walking in, it's totally different than farm and ag land. It's like big, steep, rocky, and it's kind of nuts.
Yeah, it is, and like you said, like I kind of anticipated it. I've been down in that area a little bit, and but there were some things I didn't anticipate. You could look at aerial maps all day long of something, and depending on when those were taken and what's really happened, especially where we're at, it's a lot of timberland. So, you might have an aerial of some contour lines, and you see the forest, but then when you get there, it was timbered, 1 to 5 years ago. It gives you a totally different layout to kind of bust into. And we kind of experienced that too.
Yeah, that is something I'll definitely chalk up to, like, what we've learned is sometimes, just like Shawn said, like you assume those photos are recent, and sometimes you can tell if it's really clear-cutted, but sometimes that undergrowth grows so fast you can't really tell where, let's say, the forest starts and the undergrowth begins, so to speak. And I don't know, me and Shawn walked down in a bottom that had been cleared, or on the way down, we descended down, I should say, and it was just like, Shawn, you can speak to it as well, but it was so crazy we couldn't walk through it.
Yeah, I think we I looked at those maps and what you were talking about, and I had an anticipation of having some trail systems. At least we brought a quad down, and we were thinking we were going to, drive around that a little bit and kind of get into it and then kind of walk where we wanted to walk. But it was, the first logging deck that we got on unloading on, and we went down a trail about 200 yards. And it was like a bunch of fallen timber and then just brush. And it's that rose bush, raspberry, thorns. We had to get off and walk where I anticipated like putting miles on the quad, and we put like hundreds of yards maybe, and that was it.
Yeah, it was. Maybe we went down 400 yards collectively down there. And back up, we actually did go back up that other side. This is our first, like, getting out of the truck, first morning, trying to scout this. And like Shawn said, it makes a little bit of sense. I don't know if they block some of those old logging roads on purpose for insurance reasons. They probably do. But, man, it makes it really hard to penetrate when you're trying to get to the middle of the piece of property, especially when you account for all the elevation there. So that was like difficult and something that, again, to me, I'm just learning. That was something that I was like, man, that's something in the future I'll know and we'll have to really pay attention to. But like Shawn said, we were kind of like, man, anticipating utilizing that tool being the ATV, and we didn't get to. And it was a lot of walking. I think that day we walked 7 miles up and down hills collectively, but it does give you a little bit better appreciation, I should say, when you're walking it than it does on an ATV. But man, I can't get over again just how big it is and steep and just rugged, and it's wild.
Yeah, you said we covered 7 miles, but it feels like you get in some terrain like that, and it feels like we didn't even like really scratch the surface of what we have to get into.
No, we didn't. There's a lot of, with the elevation change and stuff like that, we probably really walked, I don't know how much. Oh, I think, do you remember, Shawn, what I say, 171 stories or something like that in one day?
I think it was 144. I remember it clearly.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, that's insane amount of up and down, and that up and down doesn't usually calculate to, like how much you really walked. So that was pretty incredible. But, overall, I think we were kind of just in shock that first day of just, some of those obstacles, so to speak. Even though they're not big obstacles, it's just stuff that you kind of had a mindset like, we're going to use this, utilize this to our advantage, and, and that kind of just threw a little monkey wrench behind Shawn's plan, so to speak.
Yeah, and it's good. You got to be able to adapt in situations like that. And even though we couldn't utilize a quad, like, we're both in pretty good shape, and I kind of enjoyed like power scouting it on foot and actually, feeling like I did something at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely say that. I mean, me and Shawn both like to work out, so that was kind of nice that neither one of us complained about it or anything like that. We just kind of, powered through it and took it as a challenge. But one thing with that challenge versus being on the ATV, we noticed right off the bat that, I don't know if probably was Shawn mentioned it. He was like, look at the amount, totally different than being in the farm country again, but he was like, look at the amount of mass crops. So I kind of wanted to point that out right away because that is just something. There isn't a cornfield at one of these bottoms. There isn't a soybean field. So Shawn was right on the money when he was like, man, look at the amount of mass crops we got. They're literally everywhere, and they're almost, I mean, it's in like the thousands and millions of acorns. What else do we see down there, Shawn?
There's a lot of beech nut and just the amount of browse there. There's like, I mean, it's like hundreds of acres of, it was something a clear cut a few years ago now. So it's just like hundreds of acres of browse patch for deer. So there's just food spread out over a large acreage, and they can go wherever they want to go right now and, find cover, find food, and not be condensed in any small areas or like if you have some ag fields in that area, they're not condensed around them. So they're just spread out really well in that kind of country.
Yeah, and that does two things really if you think about it. One, it's good for us. Our property has mass crops, so we have food, and we have a lot of thick cover. We have a lot of, at eye level mouth level vegetation browse that they're going to munch on throughout the year. The bad thing with that, as me and Shawn kind of noticed, man, it was everywhere. So again, you have to get down to like some sort of different level now. We have to break it down again to kind of figure out, like, you know, where are these corridors, where are they going to be using travel routes and those type of items. Me and Shawn started to notice some travel routes and some trails, but again, it was only because we were walking and hiking and kind of busting in our butt to get through there. But once we got in, I think me and Shawn, at least I did, Shawn, you know, I felt a little bit better because for some of that thick stuff, man, we saw some really good deer runs.
Yeah, there were some good runs in there.
You know, it just
I was expecting to find some better stuff, so it was kind of like it was kind of disappointing when we first got in there, but you just got to realize that them deer are spread out. They're not condensed in little areas, and, you know, that it's going to change as time goes on when the a lot of this green starts to fade away, and they've got to focus on some more on the mass crops, and then as that kind of dwindles, then they'll start condensing in some other areas.
Yeah, exactly. And I know, like, I'm not saying it was cattle runs, you know, or beat down to the black dirt, but
yeah,
what Shawn just said was exactly my point. Well, if you see one, it's actually way better than you think it is, because it's so massive down there. There's so much room for these deer to be that when you see one run, it's historically that run's been there a long time. These deer are still using it. It's just not in the manner that you think it would be, but they're using it, and that is telling you that there's some sort of travel corridor there, which is super important. But, you know, it just was one of those things. Some of them we saw were vertical and coming down to like a creek bottom, and some were, you know, what would you say, Shawn? Some we saw were halfway. A lot of the, you know, elevation change, they were halfway or 3/4 of the way up a hill. Wouldn't you say, Shawn?
Yeah, like that third to the top kind of area.
Yeah. So, but, you know, we focused a lot on some of those elevation changes and walked around looking for bedding, old rubs. You know, that was one thing that, you know, me and Shawn did see consistently, which I thought was neat. Every kind of piece we liked, we ended up seeing some rubs. Some were old, some were, you know, decent size. We didn't see nothing that was a telephone pole size, but we saw, again, just kind of adding, you know, the little puzzle pieces where we were starting to see some sign and just overall the landscape, like, you know, hey, Lease is telling us there is deer here, you know. So, but it's really, I don't know, what would you say, Shawn? Like that 1,200 acres down there, or 1,600, I mean, it feels like literally like it's miles. I can't even describe how big it is, to be honest.
Feels like 16,000 acres.
It does, yeah. It's totally different. So one thing that I thought was a bonus for me and Shawn down there is we didn't notice a lot of hunting pressure. We didn't notice a lot of old tree stands or, you know, just sign litter that, you know, a hunter was here and like left stuff or anything like that. We didn't see much of any sign. So I thought that was kind of cool that me and Shawn kind of were like, you know, it really is kind of untouched. I don't believe that area that we're in, so to speak, is hunted really hard. But, I mean, what was your thought on that, Shawn?
Yeah, that was, like, you know, going in there, it was one of the things that I noticed was that there was, you know, no even access into the property, which made me think there's not a lot of people, like, penetrating back into this timber. So the lack of pressure was a good thing, or I guess the visual presence of it. Yeah,
there. Excuse me. I definitely didn't see much of it, like Shawn said, visual presence. I don't believe there was much, you know, and like Shawn said, it's kind of good feeling, like, you know, if you're just literally down there, you could probably break that 100, 150-yard marker in there, and you're probably getting away from somebody. It just is, you know, it's rough, thick cover, and really, to be honest, I think, Shawn, the best thing for us was what we did. You know, it was kind of bummer we couldn't use the ATV, but the best thing for us was by far to get out and just walk.
Oh, yeah, and that was kind of the good thing, because I think a lot of people aren't going to be able to access a lot of that property, just for the simple fact that a lot of people aren't in that kind of shape to hike into that kind of terrain. And there's, what do you think, like 200-foot, 300-foot peaks and valleys?
Yeah, every bit of that, for sure.
I was trying to figure out the, what the elevation changes were. I don't even know how they figure that out. Like if it's 1 foot drop per foot, or I don't know if there's a measurement for it. They're pretty steep in there too. So
yeah, it is steep. A lot of them don't like sway back like a ag bluff or a ag hill. It is a lot of up and down, and excuse me, and we're trying to find a spot where a lot of those kind of ridges would just end up coming together, and then looking for, again, more deer sign. But there was times, like me and Shawn had picked out a spot. We walked up this ridge and went all the way to the top, and we thought there was water up there. It happened to be a little marsh, and you're like, for every reason, it's thick. That marsh opens, there's clean water there, and I mean, there's not always deer sign, and this is, in this case, what happened, Shawn. We went up there and I don't even think we saw a track in there.
Well, it was kind of unusual, but if you think about it, there's no food up there. There's a lot of water in them creeks still, so there's no other reason for them to even be in there. I look at that in Michigan and go, there should be a lot of deer in there, but really the only reason deer would be in that area was maybe pressure, and there's no pressure, so they're kind of spread out in the bottoms where the food's at, where the other water's at. But this whole trip was kind of that whole rule right there, is like what you anticipated. You kind of had to adapt to what you thought it was going to be like, and then change your course, and then set a new plan. That's kind of the whole theme of that trip was. I mean, what was your expectation when you started out? Like, when we first went down there, what was your plan?
A lot of it was like, I'll call it, dream versus reality. We dream that we're going to walk in and just, it's going to be deer runs everywhere, sign everywhere. And it wasn't that. Reality was really kind of speaking to us that, like, hey, this is going to be a lot harder than maybe I anticipated. And it was listening to, like, whatever you want to call it, Shawn, like our woodsmanship, our deer hunting skills. It was the kind of listening to that, evaluating, like you just said, us being on top there in that marsh. For every reason, there should be a deer there, and there wasn't. So, again, recheck yourself, evaluate that and those steps, and why wouldn't there be? Well, there isn't the pressure that we have here in Michigan, so what's that tell you? Well, we don't always have to go to the top. We don't always have to do stuff like that. We can look for sign maybe closer to the roads where there is the creek bottoms with, water that's running, or some of these deer runs that are leading north and south. Get on the first level change there, and we might run into deer if there's some mass crops. So it was just stuff like that, just trying to recheck yourself to wipe out the disappointment for a second, and then go like, oh, this makes sense, that makes sense. But it's always kind of re-talking to yourself, or like me and Shawn, we communicated the whole day, like we talked about everything. So that helps constantly when we're, when you say, Shawn, we're bouncing ideas off of each other. That's a huge bonus.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So we are doing a little bit of what, we have to do down there. And to me right now, the name of the game for me and Shawn is running some cell cams. So we set those up. We put up, what was that, Shawn, 3 or 4? Did we do 4 or 3?
We did 3 cellulars, and then we backed them all up with
regular cameras.
Just a regular camera, yeah.
Regular infrareds,
which was a good idea.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Shawn mentioned that, and I was like, all right, that's a great idea, because you never know, what could happen. I'm new to the cell game. I'm not going to lie, so it's my first year using one ever. And, what if I didn't set up my profile right for the camera, or who knows what happened? Well, you have that safety backup, and I think that's, really, really super important. So, but Shawn, I'll let you tell them exactly like how important that was for us on that other spot on the ledge.
Oh yeah, that was last year's camera, and anytime you go into a new year with cell cameras from the year before, I've been doing it for a couple of years now, maybe about 7 or 8, and it seems like every year there's new issues with them, and they keep changing. Even like I think 3-4 years ago, there wasn't these apps with the cameras, so you had to go in and get cards and SIM cards for them and reset up your accounts, and you're doing a month-to-month with AT&T or Verizon, and every year was something different, whether it was changing from a 2G network to 3G network, so you had to send your cameras in and get them updated, or just the programs, or I'm looking for what's the word I'm looking for, I guess whether you're buying like an unlimited amount
service plan
data minute. Yeah, your service plan, your service plans would change every year. So going into this year, I was real pleased with what's happened, but then there was a couple other issues, like the services were really good with the cameras, but the one on the ledge, the flash went out on it, so I was getting all these nighttime pictures that were just black, so it was still taking the pictures off the motion, and only the nights that there was a full moon and the moon was shining down, when it would take the picture, I would actually be able to see what was on the picture. So it was good to have those. There's probably about 200, 300 black photos I have that, going back and picking up that backup camera, it's going to help us out, knowing that there's what exactly is triggering it.
Yeah, exactly. So speaking of service plan, this happened yesterday, Shawn. So I haven't even got to tell you this, right? So
yeah. Okay.
Yesterday I noticed I logged into my checking account. I had 15 fraudulent charges to Amazon in the past 3 days. So I take care of that. As I do that, they cancel my business card.
Yeah.
Literally 30 minutes later, I'm getting notified from the Reveal Tacticam that I'm getting photos. Then all of a sudden I get another notification that says you have 20 photos left for the month. So that means in a week I've blown through 500 photos on my data plan, right? So guess what card that's on?
Your business plan.
Yeah. So I'm
card.
Yeah. So I'm scrambling now. I have to go in, which I'm going to do today, and just put it on our personal credit card. But I have to go in and change that, monthly data plan. But luckily, Shawn said that technology's gotten better, and now we're using apps instead of changing SIM cards. But at least I know right now that was the problem that I've had, and not having to, swap out a SIMs card or change a whole service plan, nothing like that. But I mean, seriously, what are the odds though of that? I just thought that was crazy.
Yeah. And like us being 5 hours away, you can't just go down and reset your camera. I mean, I don't know if you can do that with, change cards and restart up your camera again, but at least you've got that second cam on it that's non-cellular, still taking pictures.
Yep. So that's part of that story too, is that we did that for everyone, so we had that backup, which I thought was really smart, man. And really overall it's protecting us, because that one spot on that ledge actually is one of the spots I'm really, really excited about, and I'll go into that just a little bit, but it's kind of little sliver triangle section, and behind it we have some more pieces, and then to the south of it we have another piece that butts to it. But the reason when we saw it the first night, because this is kind of funny story, me and Shawn are like, let's go down here and we'll check out at least this side of the road, what we got to deal with. Me and Shawn haven't even been in the hotel yet. We got a trailer, ATV. We drive down to where this little sliver that I had liked earlier on the map was, and the road's blocked off. Well, if anybody's been in southern Ohio, it's one side of the road could be 90 feet straight down. So me and Shawn had to back up a trailer, this short little utility trailers with the ATV on it, at 9:30 at night in the dark, probably Shawn, 300 yards. That was a lot of fun.
Oh yeah. I think it was about at least 300 yards. It seemed like maybe 500 to me. I was backing it up. Yeah.
So that took us a minute to back that up. But long story short, that was just funny that happened to us. It wasn't funny when it happened, but it's funny now. But when the next day we went in, and really the reality of that road being closed from both ways now means that human pressure is not there, and that's just something I always look for. So that spot to me is super intriguing because that whole road is not open. There's going to be no traffic in there. So a lot of those deer coming from one of those bottoms, going back into the timber up to feed or back into the timber to bed. I think that area is going to be like just lit up, come pre-rut and rut. So I'm super excited about that area. And actually, we have a landlocked area right behind it. So that whole area I'm really kind of stoked about. But we'll get in and kind of, see what's happening. But unfortunately, that's the one with the cellular cam that's kind of blacking out on us. But we do have the backup. But like Shawn said, we got to make that trip now, 4 or 5 hours down there to, see what's on that camera. But to me, that was a neat area, and that's one spot that I just thought was key. Another cool thing that me and Shawn came across was, and you use this to your advantage, there's a small little private piece there that's about 80 to 90 acres. Well, it happens to be a small little business that runs some outfitted hunts. It doesn't seem to be very big, but he runs maybe, 2 to 4 guys a week in camp. If that, it could be just for 3 or 4 weeks he might run a couple guys. But use that to your advantage. So me and Shawn were on the phone. We looked up the website, looked up, his Facebook, and kind of just got a feel of what kind of deer they've taken in the past and what that trophy potential was in that area. I already knew it was good from some of the other land in the area, but this is right touching ours. So it's really kind of good to get that, grassroots feel. That's a neighbor right there. So what kind of deer are they killing? What kind of deer are they seeing? And read the reviews. I read the reviews of, what those hunters thought of that guy and how he was running his service. And luckily it was all sounded really good and it was A-okay. And it was a blessing too. It was small. It wasn't like one of the infamous, places in Illinois that everybody knows of that runs 300 guys a year through it. This was, maybe on a busy year, he probably runs 8 guys through there. So, but nonetheless, it's information. You might as well utilize it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was definitely, detective work before you get on the lease, but we were we just kind of took a chance and just said, we'll figure it out.
Yeah, for sure. And then, Shawn's right. And Shawn, we both know we would normally have done this, but we did this in, 2 weeks notice and then was down there. So, and that 2 weeks was like, hey, getting with, signing our documents and there's some insurance stuff we had to sign for the timber company. So we had to do all that before we could even get down there to walk the ground. So it did really put us behind. So we're just giving you the fast forward version of what we learned, why we're down there in this kind of pinched and hardcore time frame. Because me and Shawn, literally next Saturday, Shawn, is opening day. So, we got to figure out our plans ourselves.
And with this, I don't normally do this as far as just winging it like this. And it's kind of been really fun. And I've had a different feeling about approaching this hunt. And it's kind of more of the, usually you get a buck on camera and you're following them for a long time. You anticipate that, but it's more or less just trying to pick apart the pieces and, try and discover something good down there on a short term, on a short term basis.
Yeah, it definitely is that. It kind of reminds me of that, like where you hear guys say like, oh, I killed a buck I didn't know. That's going to be the case for me and Shawn. We literally every sit, which is going to be, like he said, that level of excitement is really kind of there. Every sit we sit, we're going to see deer. We have no clue who they are, and I guarantee you every sit we see a deer, it's going to be a different deer. That's pretty exciting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
how do you think your expectations change right now going in, or how has your plan changed from when before we went down there to now we've got all this information and, we go down there again? What's your next plan of attack for scouting or even hunting down there?
One thing I think that I've learned from, being on 1 or 2 do-it-yourself hunts out in Nebraska with thousands of acres, or I had a really big farm in Illinois with a couple buddies. What happens is, and kind of like me and Shawn when we went down there, it's good and bad that sometimes you walk up a ridge and we get up there and it was like, oh man, that was a waste of time. Well, it wasn't. It told us there is no deer here. But in the grand scheme of things, what I'm trying to say is don't get overwhelmed. Me and Shawn have 1,600 acres. I'm going to just pick a section that I like, me personally, Shawn, and I'm going to move with that section and just say, is this right? And this is where I saw the deer. Time to make another move. Me and Shawn still got to learn the wind and the thermals, and I'm going to keep that in mind with making these changes and then go from there. But I am definitely not thinking about 1,600 acres. I'm thinking about this 80 or this 90, and then if I need to go into the landlocked one, and then the next piece, so on like that. I'm trying to break it down to a really small section and just focus my ass off on that section, and not to look at the big thing, because we have some other hunters on the lease, but start small, don't stress about it, and watch the deer movement. And that's just what I'm going to do.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I got kind of the same plan too, just basically just kind of, us getting down there the first time was just kind of learning the landscape a little bit, and now knowing that, there's not a lot of access to it, is basically hunt some of the stuff that we've already identified, and maybe like hunt on some of the stand locations that we have, and from there just kind of take in the the intel and just kind of work your plan to whatever you're seeing, however that might change. Like if you get in there and we're seeing deer on these stands we're on, we'll stay on them. If not, we'll just kind of move with the activity. And
yeah, nope, exactly right. And hopefully, part of that plan too is we told you guys we're running some cell cams, so hopefully that's something we're always going to pay attention to.
Hayden, be quiet, I'm on the phone.
It's always the most recent information, so we'll pay attention to that and just kind of move forward and see where it goes from there. But that's I think that's really the only expectations we can have. We have to work around some other guys, like we said, and just keep moving forward small baby steps at a time until we figure that out. But I think there's enough potential there that me and Shawn have already kind of discussed, man. Like, we might be in a really good spot, and the future could be really bright for the next couple of years, and it might be a spot that we're going to learn a ton this year, that next year we're going to be like, man, this can be a lot easier.
Absolutely. We've only got, I'd say, from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. of walking on the property, and I would say that's probably about 1/10 of what's there.
Yeah.
So that's a little tiny bit of information that we have compared to what's really there.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's a lot more to build on. Yeah,
there is. So definitely excited about it. I think that, for the listeners out there and new listeners, because I know that this summer and during COVID, I've gained a lot of new listeners, which I'm super thankful for. But every year I do like in-season reports for guys that have been successful and that are hunting during the season and talking about deer movement. But me and Shawn will continue to hopefully get together at least once a month during season and bring a podcast out for the in-season reports to kind of talk about just where we're at on the 1,600 acres and what we've learned, and what we can share with you guys to make you better hunters, better deer hunters, and better bow hunters. But I'm excited about the unknown, so to speak, and I think that I'm excited about believing in mine and Shawn's ability to kind of adapt and just go with it. And I think we're definitely going to end up killing a deer down there. So we'll bring that to you guys, but excited about it. And Shawn, what do you think? Are we going to make it down for opening day?
I'm pretty busy right now, but it's a good chance we could get down there for the day or two, maybe.
Yeah.
And like you said about like with the season, like I'm really having fun with it. Whether or not we shoot deer down there, it's different terrain. I really like the ruggedness of it, and I mean, I got back, I felt great. I felt like I had a good workout walking up and down the hills and just seeing different things and different landscape and different, the different types of trees and the way the layout is, and it's just a good change to be in that type of environment when you're used to, what we're used to up here.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, man. It's so much to learn, and it was kind of refreshing to learn something so different so completely different. Like I'm talking a 180. And I was also excited too, man, that being that gyms have been closed here in Michigan, I was like, man, I'm not nearly as bad a shape as I thought. And I recovered okay the next day. And I mean, me and Shawn worked. We were like literally soaking wet and full of chiggers.
Twice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was new for you. I was glad
that was a new experience. I never want to experience again.
Experience.
Yeah, never again. So, but yeah, that was quite the crazy experience with the chiggers, man. And if you've had them, you feel me right now. But man, I definitely don't want to do that again. But nonetheless, man, excited to get back down there. And for those that don't know, Shawn is one of the premier land specialists here in Michigan. So if you're looking to buy or sell land in Southeast Michigan or anywhere in Michigan, you can get a hold of Shawn on Facebook or Instagram, Whitetail Properties website. But I know, Shawn, you've been extremely busy with listings right now. You probably have a ton of stuff to do actually today.
Oh yeah, it's crazy right now. Just interest rates are down. This COVID has really made people, really pressed to get acreage and recreational land. So that's why I'm saying I may or may not be able to make it down there on the 28th or 27th, whenever it is, but I'm going to try to.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we do. If not, we got plenty of time. But Shawn, let everybody know. I think I just let everybody know, but at least your Instagram handle, and we'll catch back up again. And obviously we'll talk this week, but we'll do another podcast when we get down there and hunt again.
All right, sounds good. I'm on Facebook and Instagram, but you can get me at I think it's X-Country Bow Hunter on Instagram.
That is it. So, thanks, Shawn, and we'll get back together here shortly, like I said, and hopefully we'll have some more really good stories for you, at least just the learning curve process I definitely want to share because, man, there's going to be a lot more to this and a lot more for me and Shawn to learn, and we'll definitely share it. But, Shawn, thanks for coming on today, buddy.
All right, no problem. Thanks a lot, Brandon.
Yep, absolutely. And as you guys know, you can find us pretty much on every outlet, but Outdoor Podcast Channel, Unfiltered Outdoors app. You can find us on Spotify, YouTube, and iTunes every week. We'll see you guys again real soon.